War has always come with a price, but some wars have taken more than just land or power. They've taken tens of millions of lives, altered the course of civilizations, and left permanent scars on humanity. In this video, we're counting down the 10 bloodiest wars in world history, based not only on their unimaginable death tolls, but also on the chaos, cruelty, and change they left behind. These are not just wars. They are brutal lessons etched in blood. Let's begin. 10. The Russian Civil War, 1917 to 1923. Estimated deaths, 7 to 12 million. Following the Russian Revolution of 1917, the Russian Civil War was a brutal and chaotic conflict between the Bolshevik Red Army and the anti-Bolshevik White Army. But it wasn't just two sides battling for control. The country fractured into dozens of factions, including anarchists, nationalists, and foreign intervention forces. The result? An utterly devastated nation. What makes the Russian Civil War particularly devastating is how civilians bore the brunt of the violence. Famine and disease swept through the population as infrastructure collapsed. The Red Terror campaign executed thousands suspected of anti-Bolshevik sentiments, while white forces carried out pogroms and mass killings. Cities were emptied, crops were burned, and the countryside descended into lawlessness. By the time the Bolsheviks emerged victorious, somewhere between 7 and 12 million people had died, most of them civilians. And out of the ashes rose the Soviet Union, a new superpower built on the wreckage of an empire. 9. The Napoleonic Wars, 1803 to 1815. Estimated deaths, 3.5 to 6 million. Few individuals have reshaped Europe as drastically as Napoleon Bonaparte. His ambition to create a French-led European empire plunged the continent into a series of wars involving nearly every major European nation. These conflicts, collectively known as the Napoleonic Wars, marked a turning point in modern warfare. Battles like Austerlitz, Leipzig, and Waterloo became legendary for their scale and destruction. The wars spanned from Spain to Russia, causing untold devastation to cities and the countryside. Civilians suffered immensely, especially during Napoleon's disastrous invasion of Russia, where the harsh winter and scorched earth tactics led to massive casualties. But it wasn't just battles that killed. Disease, starvation, and the displacement of millions contributed to a death toll that may have reached up to 6 million. The Napoleonic Wars left Europe politically altered, paving the way for the modern nation-state and setting the stage for future conflicts. 8. The 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648. Estimated deaths, 8 million. What began as a religious conflict between Protestant and Catholic states in the fragmented Holy Roman Empire spiraled into a pan-European struggle for political dominance. The 30 Years' War became one of the most destructive conflicts in European history. Entire regions of Central Europe were depopulated. Mercenary armies ravaged the countryside, killing, looting, and spreading plague. Crops were destroyed, towns were pillaged, and famine swept through the land. Some regions lost more than half of their populations. The Peace of Westphalia ended the war, but the cost was catastrophic. Around 8 million people died, with civilians accounting for the majority. The war also marked the beginning of modern diplomacy, as the treaties redefined borders and sovereignty in Europe. But the psychological trauma lingered for generations. 7. The Taiping Rebellion, 1850 to 1864. Estimated deaths, 20 to 30 million. One of the deadliest civil wars in history, the Taiping Rebellion was led by Hong Xiuquan, a Chinese religious leader who believed he was the younger brother of Jesus Christ. His goal? To overthrow the Qing dynasty and establish a theocratic state known as the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. The rebellion lasted 14 years, tearing China apart. Major cities, such as Nanjing, were captured and turned into battlegrounds. The Qing government responded with brutal crackdowns, often massacring entire populations suspected of supporting the rebels. Famine, disease, and scorched earth tactics caused millions to perish. Civilian suffering was immense. People were killed not just by gunfire, but by starvation and mass executions. The death toll may have reached 30 million, making it one of the deadliest conflicts ever. The rebellion ended with the fall of Nanjing in 1864, but the Qing dynasty never fully recovered from the devastation. Sixth World War I on, 1914 to 1918. Estimated deaths, 15 to 20 million. The Great War was unlike anything the world had seen before. Sparked by the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, World War I quickly drew in all the major powers through a web of alliances. Trench warfare defined the Western Front, where millions died in muddy, disease-ridden hellholes. New weapons, machine guns, poison gas, tanks caused horrific casualties. Entire generations of young men from Europe and beyond were wiped out. The Eastern Front, Middle Eastern campaigns, and battles in Africa and Asia added to the global nature of the conflict. Civilian deaths from famine, disease, and genocide, such as the Armenian Genocide, also pushed the death toll higher. By the end, more than 15 million people were dead, and 4 empires had collapsed: the Austro-Hungarian, Russian, Ottoman, and German. The war's aftermath laid the foundation for even more devastation to come.